Well, hello and happy Friday. TGIF, am I right, my friends? It is the 5th of April if you're listening on Friday, and I don't have your news segment, which I do try to do on Fridays. I almost always get it Monday through Thursday, and shout out to Ryan G, who's the reason I do it on Fridays, but I just couldn't make it happen. The COVID, last night's hangout, I have gotten so much better this week, and it never really got too bad, but the one thing that hasn't really waned too much is the exhaustion. I feel like I want to take a nap every 2 hours as opposed to every 4. So, yeah, no news segment today, but I do have a great conversation with Bill Boyle coming your way, Bill B in DC. I got some great new guests coming up on tap for next week as well. Very excited to share them with you. I like to think, I have some regulars that you know and that you like and that you trust. Not all of them. You don't know and trust all of them, but hopefully you do many of them. And then I introduce you to new people every single week almost and try to make some of them regulars as well. Always looking for new voices, always looking for diversity, and always want to hear from you with who I should have on. But I certainly do love talking to Bill Boyle and so many of our other good friends. Bill has a lot of trust and credibility with this audience because he is not a pundit. He is not a paid commentator. He's a parking garage business owner in Washington, D.C., and he lives there with his wife and his son. Great guy, friend of ours, joins us at the Hangouts, longtime caller of the old show, and just one of the smartest guys in town. Doesn't mean he make him right. He's obviously opinionated, so am I, but I really like his perspective. He pays real close attention and always takes in historical perspective, and so I'm just going to hit play now and stop talking. I think you're going to love this one. We covered a lot of ground. Let them know on Twitter. Let's do it right now with my friend Bill Boyle, Bill B in D.C. Well, good to see you. We are off. Thank you for joining me. You were missed in Vegas. Your name came up a lot and all in good ways, but I know you're very, very busy, and I hope everybody gets to meet you at some point, sometime in the future. Because
that's nice. I mean, everybody just needs to understand that maintaining cover means you don't expose yourself to too many people at the same time. Right.
You don't want to blow your cover.
There you go.
Your secret agent status.
People find out I'm a parking guy. It's just going to ruin everything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, lots to talk about with you today, and let's just kind of work our way backwards in terms of current events and get your reaction to it. I know you had a really interesting and particularly specific kind of DC, as always, base reaction to the killing of these humanitarian aid workers. What is the connection between this chef Andres and that organization and DC? Why is it so intimate to folks there?
Okay, so people maybe have heard about how the Capitals and Wizards almost left DC for Virginia, and they were going to leave from the Capitol Arena, which is on downtown on 7th Street. It came there in the 80s and it revitalized the entire neighborhood. Before the Capitol Arena got there to revitalize that neighborhood, Jose Andres, the head of World Central Kitchen and now of a restaurant empire, he was the chef at a place called Jaleo, which was one of the very first restaurants, and that was a tough neighborhood. They went in there and opened this tapas restaurant. It's one of the great original tapas restaurants in DC. And Jose was the chef. At the time, I was running a valet parking company, interestingly, where we parked cars for him. And I used to go and dun him for money when they owed us money. I'd go in and be like, hey, chef, you guys owe us $1,500. You got to pay us. Right? So I actually was bumping into him, not a ton, but enough back then that we knew each other. And he was just always like nice to the guys that worked for me. He was always nice to his own staff. He's he's a chef, and there's a certain amount of sociopathy that goes with every great chef. But he was just like noted in the business for being like a good guy. And just like a presence, like real, you see him on TV. That's the way he is in real life. He's like a larger than life figure, but in like a nice way, not in a douchey asshole.
Very sincere. He seems very sincere.
Yeah. He's just like,
authentic.
Yeah. And he just is like he's a mensch. He's a mensch. Sure. There's the word. And in DC, there are not a ton of mentions, let's be honest. And there's a lot of good people. There's a lot of great people here, but mensch is a different thing. And as a New Yorker, you understand this. Sure. And Jose Andres is a mensch. So he's really well known around DC. People really like him, raised his kids here. He's a local. He's one of us. And he then goes and starts like World Central Kitchen, which is feeding people in conflict zones and after hurricanes and whatever, which is amazing because Jose has a ton of money. He doesn't need to do this. He doesn't really, I don't think, care about being famous at all. And the reason I say that is, again, because he is exactly the same. He sees me and he goes, hey, parking guy, right? Like he remembers people from decades ago that are not involved in anything he's involved in now. So he starts World Central Kitchen. Amazing. He was in the Trump Hotel. He was going to open a restaurant there. And then Trump started saying terrible things about immigrants. And Jose said, fuck you. I'm walking out of my lease. And he had a court battle with Trump, which Jose won.
Oh.
And so he's one of the original people when Trump came to D.C. to tell him to go fuck himself for exactly the right reasons. He could have made a ton of money in Trump Hotel.
Sure.
And he said, no,
sure.
I'm better than that. You stink. I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is just a guy who around here has a rep of being one of the good ones. And so when Israel egregiously kills those 7 people, and Jose thinks apparently that they kind of did it on purpose. And as you know, I am as close to an agnostic about the Gaza-Israel fight as you can be. I'm a plague on both their houses guy. And I look at this and I'm like, man, I don't necessarily disagree with him. They hit the convoy 3 times over 15, 20 minutes? The Israelis did.
Yeah, I don't know what the time period was or any of that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh, there was it was hit 3 times. They had time to think about it.
I know they got out and went to, it sounds just absolutely dramatic awful. And horrific and,
right.
and terrifying. And
right. And so Israel can do a lot of dumb things, obviously, and get away with it. In a weird way, this was like a really incredibly profoundly stupid one because people in Washington who care about the issue, Palestinians are dying. They're going to go, oh, come on, this is awful. But this is attacking someone they actually personally know.
Right. There's such a stake in it, and that's the real.
This is attacking
someone that you know, someone that you know, and someone that's good, and someone that you can't say that he's a Palestinian and therefore he supports Hamas and therefore human shields and therefore he's militant age and all the things that you want to say. You can't say about this.
You cannot.
His PR profile is so positive, and you're giving us all these evidence, this anecdotal evidence to it, specifically in D.C. It really does, to me, and I talked with Rothkopf about this yesterday, seem to change the game on Israeli support there, and what this means. It seems like a real tipping point, maybe.
Yeah, I agree. And, I think I said, I think it would have been hard to pick somebody dumber who hurt or attack.
Right. Yes, that's an interesting way of putting it. Someone more beloved by everybody, not political, really.
No politics. His politics are don't be terrible to immigrants and feed people who are starving.
Right.
That's about as Christian or as Jewish or as Islamic a positive message you could possibly have. It's completely ecumenical what religion is supposed to. In a weird way, it's like a very religious message without the religion.
And those of us who aren't religious necessarily see it as the laws and morals of human rights to feed.
It's a values thing.
Right.
It's an unimpeachable values thing. He's never tried to use it to get any sort of power or benefit from it for himself. He's using the benefits he's gotten in life and the success he's gotten in Washington to hand it to somebody else to help him. And so, I think it's one of those things that when someone writes the definitive book of how Israel lost the United States, it'll be a chapter.
So what do you see happening? I mean, we've seen Schumer, we've seen Biden rhetorically. Meantime, he's slipping them weapons, which seems like a terrible own goal. Yeah. Shoots himself in the own, his own cause in terms of voters and much less what's.
I mean, I think it hurts him politically in the United States, but I think that he is doing sort of what he did in Afghanistan, which is he is taking a decision that people hate, but he's doing it for exactly the right reasons, and that in the long term, it's a better reason.
What could be the right reason to give Israel any more weapons? So
the problem that we're running into, and there's a guy named Mark Polymeropoulos, who's an ex-CIA guy, who's a paramilitary guy in the Middle East for a long time, who is suffering from Havana syndrome and an enormous critic of the White House. And Polymeropoulos said, I think today or last night, the reason he's doing this is that the ultimate nightmare scenario, and I'm paraphrasing and adding actually to this, the ultimate nightmare scenario is Israel getting into a huge war with Hezbollah and the Iranians, because it just throws the entire region into complete chaos. And it has all these ancillary effects, one being that the U.S. is now forced yet again to fucking concentrate in the Middle East, that it takes our attention, our arms, everything else away from confronting China and Taiwan. It would immediately affect our ability to help Ukraine immediately. And so what Biden is giving them is weapons that make sure Hezbollah and Iran are deterred from starting a war with Israel. Does it suck? Is it dismaying? Is it crass and depressing? Yes, all of that. But in the world of how it is, the president must try to forestall that option from happening, because it just makes it's as important as making sure Ukraine doesn't lose their war. It's equally important. And so
I understand
you have to make terrible decisions in that situation.
I understand the complexities of it. You make a really interesting point and argument as to how many different things one has to balance. But Israel could also do all kinds of things to earn the weapons and support, like stop what they're doing.
Well, so that's another side of this that is so crazy about this whole situation.
I mean, Bernie Sanders is saying don't give them another, one more weapon. I mean, a lot of Americans in government and leadership are saying this at this point.
Richard Haas is saying nothing but defensive. Rothkopf is saying similar, I think.
Yeah.
People who are real mainstream people, and by the way, I agree with that, only defensive from now on. But I think that people are underestimating there's a couple things going on here. And I've been saying this for a while. And I've said it to you, I think, the last time we talked about Israel. Israel doesn't really have a government. The army hates Bibi Netanyahu and hates his coalition partners. The intelligence services hate Bibi and hate his coalition partners. When Bibi shows up at a base, people hiss at him, tell him to go fuck himself. Like commandos walk up to him, tell him he's a piece of shit. But Bibi can't be driven out based upon the political build and constitution of Israel for a while, for at least 6 months, unless his coalition partners abandon him. But none of those guys in his coalition are going to come close to winning anything what they have now in the next election. So you're stuck with this rump government it's totally to its advantage, for Bibi's advantage, to drag this out as long as possible, because when the music stops, Bibi doesn't have a chair and his coalition partners don't have a chair. And so you have this really toxic and terrible situation where, the Israeli military basically decided on its own, for every Hezbollah fighter we kill, we can kill up to 15 to 20 bystanders. I'm sorry, Pete, that's a fucking war crime to me.
They're talking about in Syria now, right? Damascus.
Oh, okay, I thought that was that's in Gaza.
Every Hezbollah Hamas fighter, or you said every Hezbollah fighter we can.
I'm sorry, excuse me. I meant Hamas fighter. Yes, and so you have this situation where the Israeli military is kind of off the leash. And, there used to be, is it Clemenceau in France said war is too important to be left to the generals, right? Mm-hmm. We're in a situation where this war has been left to the generals. And the craziest thing of all is that the generals politically are more moderate than Bibi is. So you have this Israeli state that is in this really unstuck sort of place. And it's unstuck in that the values and the norms and everything else have gone out the window, because each piece of the state is acting on its own, because the civilian leadership has no authority. And yet you can't get rid of the civilian leadership, and the civilian leadership is more fascist and toxic than the military guys. So it's just really an ugly and bad situation. It's a series of loose cannons firing off in every direction, and there's no statesman there to be looking around and saying, guys, do you understand what we're destroying with the United States? Right. Because they are literally destroying the most important alliance that really is what safeguards the safety and continued existence of Israel.
That seems hard to argue. It seems really hard to argue with that point from the interest of Israel.
Yeah, but they're not, and no one has. The military just they see themselves as having been blamed for this happening. So they're in the mode of, we're going to make sure this never happens again, which leads, should I use the G word? Should I say genocide? We're not there yet. We're working on it, getting close to it. And the irony of the state of Israel, edging up to potentially committing a genocide, that just disgusts me. And I come from people who supported Israel, not blindly, but very strongly for a very long time. And now I go, I talk to my family, I talk to my father, and he's like, maybe they're not the good guys anymore. Right. And when my father says maybe they're not the good guys, he doesn't mean maybe. He means, right. Holy shit. I remember, my father remembers the founding of Israel and saw it as the safeguard against anything like the Nazis ever happened.
Yeah.
And now you see Israel acting in ways that are reminiscent of some of the worst ethno states in the world. There's going to be a famine in Gaza, by the way. I hope people understand that. It's going to be one of the top 3 famines of the century, if it isn't already. And so this gets worse, and it's depressing, terrible situation. And the only thing that starts to fix it is, like Trump, my hopes for Trump, that Bibi trips into a volcano.
You put so much of the blame on that one man. I think it was you or somebody else, basically, saying that this one man has destroyed Israel. And the same could be argued for Trump. I mean, it's easy to say, and it's not fully true because there's all kinds of forces and changes and cultural and political and capital influences, monetary influences. But at the same time, you could make the argument, Trump has destroyed decorum and our spirits and poisoned our culture and made it okay to be a terrible person. And it's different in Bibi's case, but a lot of blame can be put on that one man. It would seem
big similarities.
One man.
And by the way, we could get into the history of Israel and why someone like Bibi becomes a viable politician, which, by the way, in some ways goes very much back to immigration from Russia that started in the 70s and 80s. And the Russian immigrants pulled Israeli politics to the right strongly.
Mm.
So it's a very complicated thing. Are these guys Caesars that bestride the landscape and change everything? No, they're not really. They're expressions of the society they're from. But to change that trajectory, those individuals need to fall, and they need to fall hard.
I wanted to ask you about Aaron David Miller's interview with Isaac Chotener and The New Yorker, and you had a really stark reaction to that. I'm trying to find the exact quote here. Can you reference it?
I had a very angry reaction, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, sure. Aaron David Miller, of course, been on the show a million times, good friend of mine on the show, and Middle East expert, and he go ahead.
Yeah, and this is not, I like Aaron David Miller. I think he's a nice guy, and his expertise is quite profound. So, Aaron David Miller, if you're not out there listening, nothing personal. But the way he discusses it, for instance, he never mentions what I just mentioned. He knows that the Biden administration is acting the way it is because it's trying to forestall and stave off a much bigger war. Never mentions it in the Chotener interview at all. And at the end of the interview, this is a problem because he's talking about why Biden is doing what he's doing. But he just doesn't mention the very most important thing to why Biden's doing what he's doing. And then he acts as if he knows what Biden is thinking,
right,
personally and internally, that he has less sympathy for the Palestinians than he does for the Israelis. And I'm sorry, but that is bullshit. He doesn't know. He does not know.
He was asked specifically because it sounded like, as the interviewer is so keen, that he didn't hear the sympathy for the Palestinians that he heard for Israelis at one point. And, and so which
is Chotener imposing his own biases into that in that interview.
Right. Yes. But I mean, I think that's true of a lot of people.
Sure.
A lot of people have a lot more sympathy for one side or the other in many conflicts, and certainly in this one. And in America, I think people are more likely to side with the Israelis than the Palestinians before October 7th and after October. I mean, I just think that's generally speaking the case. Certainly white Americans, certainly.
Sure. And that's all okay. I don't even care about that. It's more that Aaron David Miller is being interviewed. And he's getting pushed around by Chotener, as people do. And he kind of adopts, I think Aaron David Miller is more sympathetic to the Israelis. And I think what he was doing was basically projecting his sympathy onto Biden. And I think that sucks. I don't think that's legit.
Why is it? I mean, it may never be appropriate. He was asked the question and he gave his take. And I liked it. I thought it was extremely honest. I see what you're saying, that no one can tell, it can speak for somebody else in terms of where their sympathies lie and how much and where, but it wouldn't seem surprising to me. It's surprising to me that you make the argument that it's not true that Biden has probably more sympathy for the Israelis. Like pretty much every other American president, maybe not Barack Obama. He was always familiar with the Palestinian struggle, and certainly he and Bibi did not like each other.
Well, I mean, I can tell you, and Miller references it in his own answers. Clinton hated dealing with the Israelis. Obama hated dealing with the Israelis. George Bush
hated dealing with them is not.
But in other words, my point is
not
that
more than he hated dealing with the Palestinians. The Palestinians are obviously very difficult. Leadership has always been difficult to negotiate and deal with. Arafat and
right.
Yeah.
My point is that these decisions are not based on how they feel on any given morning, right? The U.S. has been pressuring the shit out of Israel. Have they been doing enough? No, but they're doing a lot more than people realize. And there are enormous geopolitical issues, domestic political issues, even just down to like military issues, strategic issues to deal with. And to make it as if Biden just kind of, he doesn't really like the Palestinians. He sympathies with the Israelis.
That's not what I heard. It's not what I heard.
That's what I did. And let me put it this way. I would feel less strongly about it if it was you or like not an expert in the region, right? Like any non-expert in the region it came from him. And I felt very much like he was putting his own, he didn't like the pressure he was getting from Chotiner. So he kind of just shifted it to Biden.
Well,
that bothered me quite a bit. I expect better from Aaron David Miller. Let me put it that way. People
should read that interview and decide. I've reached out to Aaron to get him on to get his take on it, and we'll see what happens with that. I want to move on
I would pay good money for Aaron David Miller to be like, that Boyle guy's an asshole. That would be amazing.
That shouldn't be hard. So, I want to get. You told me you would give me a quick update on the war in Ukraine, and I always appreciate that. So, what is going on?
So what is going on in the war in Ukraine is that the Russians are basically saying, we're winning, we're winning, we're winning. They're dumping, they're taking higher losses right now than they've taken, except at the very point where they first were thrown back at the beginning of the war. And they are trying desperately, I think, to kind of make it a fait accompli that they won. The reason that they're able to do this is that Ukraine is being starved of munitions by the House of Representatives, the Republicans in the House of Representatives in the United States. And there's a window for the Russians here where they're making some gains at just atrocious cost. And there's a window for the Russians to try to close this out. If they can't suddenly make really big territorial gains, which I think is unlikely but not impossible, then we're headed, that window will close as other people, NATO is working on a plan to send $100 billion of munitions now. There's sort of the responsibility for this war, because the U.S. House of Representatives, the Republicans there are dragging their feet. The responsibility for sort of funding this war and pushing it forward is shifting to the Europeans. And I think that we're in a dangerous moment in that there's a lot of people in American politics who kind of want the Ukrainians to lose. And I think that we are in a dangerous moment where if there's a big setback tomorrow, the Republicans are going to say, see, why throw good money after bad?
Right.
At the same time, if you're a super Ukraine war nerd like me, you're watching all this data that people are collecting out there. Like the tanks that are starting to show up in Russian losses get a little older every month. Like the Russians they're out of their new T-72s. So now you're starting to see most of the ones that are being lost were built 12 or 15 years ago. And the ones that were built 17 years ago are starting to show up. Like the Russians are running out of all of the stored fat of the Soviet military. And so I would say, rather than get like really into the weeds of tactics and where the war is, I would just say that this war is at a point where the Russians could kind of steal victory from the jaws of defeat. And it wouldn't take a whole lot to turn that around and really reverse it. And I just would say that everyone should be calling their congressman in the House every day, on the Republican side especially, and telling them to get this bill through, because that $60 billion probably saves us like $1 trillion later on.
Yes.
So, best bargain ever.
Well, what I'm hearing is that the Speaker of the House is going to put is going to pass something.
Well,
Mike Johnson saying
I see it because they're talking about doing a loan now, which the Senate won't go for. I don't think. They're gonna. These guys are like, they are the Houdinis of fucking up, right?
The Republicans in the House.
Yeah, they just are so good at being absolutely fucking unable to get out of our own way. And it's just, if he passes that bill, he's going to have a leadership challenge the same day. So does Mike Johnson say, fuck it, I'm going to go for it? Does he seem like a principled guy who really wants to get things done? No, he seems like a guy who wants to keep his seat.
But he probably is a guy who wants to stay in power. So.
That's right. And that's why the Ukraine bill hasn't already passed. So I will believe it when I see it. I desperately hope they get the balls and the will to do it, because it would be pretty much the best thing for America in a very long time.
Yeah. Well, the best thing for America?
Yeah.
Passing funding to support the war in Ukraine?
Sure, because you either fight the small war now or you fight the big war later.
Yeah.
And that's just the long and short of it. There's not and again, it's sort of going back to kind of what I was saying about Biden and Israel. Is it great that we're doing this? No, it's not great. It's a lot of money. But you have to look at the long-term picture. And the long-term picture is Russia does not intend to stop.
Well,
and if they do not intend to stop, then why not stop them now? Stop them in the Rhineland rather than in D-Day, right?
Well, yeah, I like the historical analogy. However, it's a lot of money, as you've made the point before, that comes back into the U.S. economy, a lot of that money.
I mean, yeah, I'm not even trying to make that argument, which is easy to make. And, you're nailing it. Like almost all of that, was it 90% is spent in the United States? That's like basically saying we're spending that money to revamp our own military. Right. It is literally that. So
let me ask you about two important companies that you pay close attention to. One is Tesla, and the other is DJT or Trump's
DJT, Donald Trump's
company he created to be the parent company, I guess, of his Truth Social, which he's the majority owner in, and so on. Both these companies have lost tremendous value. They're obviously far different. One is actually a company with a thing that they sell cars and more. Tesla solar panels. I've got their solar panels. Used to be Solar City, and then of course Tesla took them over. But anyway, let's start with Truth Social and what's happened to that company and that stock over the past week. You have been following that closely. It's crazy. Anything he touches dies. It's worth nothing. And the two guys that created the original investment have now been indicted for insider trading. And
he's suing them, I think.
And I think he's suing them because he wants their stake. Yeah.
I mean, and by the way, like the money that saved the original investment that allowed this SPAC, it's called a SPAC, to go forward.
Yeah.
Is a Russian American connected to a bunch of oligarchs in Russia who are hip to Vladimir Putin. So when you talk about Donald Trump's company, you should just be very clear on the idea that this is yet another Russian origin money story where Russian money has allowed Trump in effect to stay in American politics. And there's no like conspiracy theory to this. There's no big, like woo-woo, collusion story or whatever. It's right out there in the open. It's a guy who is totally tied into the Silvics around Putin, who came up with the money that allowed all of this to happen. So it's just yet another example of the influence that and the Russian money that's keeping Trump around to bedevil us. Now, as far as the company goes, they had $3 million or $4 million in revenue on $59 million, I want to say, or $49 million of losses. Now, Pete, I don't know about you, but if my
it's like
company,
$3 million it made.
Yeah, my company, live it this way. My company, my parking company, my regional parking company takes in away a lot more than $3 million a year in gross. Like, it's absolutely nuts how little. That's a bullshit, crappy, not worth the fucking paper it's written on company, and it's amazing that it's getting anywhere. And Barry Diller today on CNBC, he just said it's a scam. Like, why are we even talking about this? He's like, it's GameStop, but it's worse than GameStop.
Come on.
Oh, it is.
I mean,
totally
it is. I did read. Somebody had written. I didn't read the article, but like I spent the day on Truth Social, so you didn't have to. But I mean, I've heard that it's not very functional. It doesn't work very well. It's not a fun.
No, it's a bunch of the same people talking to themselves. There's no journalists on it except there to look at the loonies.
Right.
And it doesn't have a model that it's, Barry Diller actually today said there is no model for this to make money.
Why not?
What are they going to do?
Enough.
Are you going to do your banking on it? Are you going to go and watch videos on it? Can it challenge YouTube? Can it challenge truest banks, like banking?
Well, the only thing that's a challenge is a similar social media, which is Twitter.
Well, but even look at Twitter. Twitter loses money, and Twitter under Musk. Like he wants to get into doing they call it an all-in-one app, and China has one or two, and those make a lot of money. But that would mean that they would have to be trustworthy enough that I'd be okay buying my Happy Meal with it, or that I would be willing. I would use it as a dating app and as a you get money in these apps if you aggregate them. In the United States, that hasn't worked out very well for anybody. Works in China, works in Europe, works in Vietnam, whatever. But in the U.S., it's not a thing, and so there is no like real route for these to make money. I mean, so Twitter has it's like the Russians. It has the built-up fat of its previous regime, right? But eventually that runs out, and Truth Social doesn't even have that, right? So there is no, for you poor suckers who bought that, I hope you're just trying to short it because it is completely ridiculous.
Well, it seems like the original investors were just trying to short it. I mean, that's what a lot of people do, especially with these SPACs. You blow something up, you sell it before it comes down, and you make money, and everybody else loses.
Pump and dump. And Trump is perfect for that because there is just an endless number of clowns that are willing to chase his name.
Yeah, he's the king. He's the pump and dump, though, in a way with like hard goods, like not a stock, not a service, not a company, but like Trump water or steaks or it's like a product, just a scam product. There's all kinds of scam products. He's put his name on everyone he possibly could, gotten the money initial, and then who cares what happens? Trump
is really an old school comment. If he had been really smart, he would have been doing pumping and dumping with tech stocks 15 years ago.
Yeah.
He got approached by somebody who said, "Hey, you know how to do this."
It would have been a lot less work than appearing on The Apprentice for sure, but also, he loves that. He likes being.
Who's trying to sell fucking steaks?
Yeah.
15 years. It's weird. That's like I have in the last 20, 30 years been in business, and I can't tell you how many guys I met who gotten their MBA, who were like, "No, I have this great idea to sell steaks," or this great idea. That's the sort of guy where that they're never going to really do all that well because they think, "Oh, I've got this one weird trick to sell you water or steaks or whatever." When that's not really how people make money in business. You make money by creating organizations that you can then and that you pitch, and it's relationships and it's all that sort of thing. And when I look at Trump, I'm like, it's really clownish. And if Trump's father had not been who he was, Trump is selling used Buicks in a parking lot on Long Island.
Well, he wouldn't be alive.
Right.
Let me switch off of that and ask you about Tesla. There's two obvious things that are happening. Increased competition with EVs around the world, especially in China. But also, I wonder how much of a negative effect Elon Musk's constant embarrassing commentary and need to insert himself, the whole Twitter debacle, but just his horrific is making people say, I just can't buy a Tesla and be in any way affiliated with this guy. I mean, the point is the stock is tanking really in a way it hasn't before. And I'm not quite sure why. You follow that company. You hate that man as much as anybody and as long as anybody. So what are your thoughts on what's happening with the company?
I mean, to put it simply, if Elon Musk had not been the owner of Tesla for the last, forever, I would have imagined buying a Tesla, right? I mean, I'm a guy I'm in a business where we think about EVs all the time, and I'm technophile and all the rest. But him being who he is, you're sort of reasonably well-educated suburban or urban person who is not a rabid and insane anti-immigrant person is going to say, I can't fucking buy this guy's car. And what's fascinating about it is, like, they're not cheap, they're expensive. And there are cheaper and better deals. You know, I paid 30 grand and change for a brand new Subaru Outback. Why did I buy that car? Because it was such a better deal than any of the EVs or hybrids that were out there this last fall. And when you look at the world he's in, though, somebody like me, who's like a car guy, they tend to be suburban. They tend to be well educated. They tend to be and they are his potential customers because they make enough money to buy his cars. And this sort of rabid Trumpian guy who wants to drive, what do they call that? Pumping coal on a pickup truck where you.
Oh, rolling coal. Yeah.
Rolling coal. The rolling coal people, do they want to own a Tesla? No, not at all. So it's a very strange, I don't have numbers in front of me, but there's no way it doesn't hurt him because you're just killing the most affluent part of the American market. They're not going to, if you lose, and by the way, by killing it, the car industry is brutal. It is so tough. And EVs are going to have vastly more competition every year going forward. You don't want to lose 10%. You don't want to lose 3% of a market. You want to eke out every bit of a market you possibly can. That's business, right? Musk is obviously, if you're a buyer, you look at the guy, and if 10% say, fuck it, I'm not buying his car, that's a huge deal. Yeah. He would have sold 36,000 more cars.
It's such a weird thing to think that your personality could bring down the sales of your company if your company is something that sells cars. Like I always think about that. When I think about all the other automobile manufacturers, I can only name one, I guess two of the CEOs. But regardless, like I don't know anything about them. I don't know anything about I'm sure they're just capitalist, rich pricks. I wouldn't like them, but like they're not inserting themselves to the point that it would affect the sale of the car. And that's true of pretty much every company around the world. And with not every company. I mean, a lot of times it is the personality only, whether it be a restaurant or a sneaker or anything else. But I'm saying when it comes to cars, you're spending a lot of your money on that.
Here's the thing. Build a business, man. The way I look at this. Let's take restaurants. You go to a restaurant. What else are you going for besides the food?
Yeah, the ambiance, it's a location.
It's a lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
You're going to, it suggests something to you about you.
Yeah.
And that applies even, if you're the, obnoxious hipster like me and you are like searching out the best street food. You're making a lifestyle choice. You're saying, this is who I am.
I'm Five Guys. That's who I am. I'm a Five Guy.
Used to be amazing. It's, the very first Five Guys was next to my very first party.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And I used to eat it and used to say, how does everyone not eat these burgers? Yeah.
Well, how does everybody not get their French fries? You could watch them put the potato through the thing. That was brilliant. That's brilliant that they have the bags of potatoes up. All right. Let me move on to one more thing.
Yeah. Well done with bay seasoning 100%. But anyway, cars are also a lifestyle choice. People overpay for cars all the time because of the way that they make them feel.
Sure.
And so when you look at Musk, right? Musk decided to insert his own lifestyle choices into you buying his car. So it matters vastly. If Musk was a guy selling, I don't know, fucking mixers, kitchen devices, whatever, washing machines, those aren't really lifestyle choices. No one would care.
Right.
But because he's selling cars, when you buy his car, you're making a statement about your own values and about how you see the world. When he started out, it was buy a Tesla because it's A, awesome, and B, it's good for the environment. Who, when they buy a Tesla now, is saying, I'm buying this car because it's good for the environment?
What if I bought a Tesla but covered up the Tesla logo on the back with an image of Joe Biden all tied up?
Are you thinking of buying a Tesla, by the way?
No.
Okay, good.
No.
Good.
I'm not even in the market for an EV. Like we need a third car, and it's hard for me to justify because Julia's getting her license. Anything more than anything really. I just need something to tool around town, and I don't need something. If I'm going long distance.
The pricing is crazy. Yeah, and until the pricing changes,
I hate cars. I fucking hate. No offense, but I just hate buying them. I don't like driving them. I don't care about them that much. I like looking at them.
Don't apologize. You remember I used to say I'm the most ironic parking guy in the world because I don't really care about cars.
All right, let me ask you about one final really interesting thing, which is a kind of a conversation, a debate that's been playing out, especially on social media, specifically Twitter, about the idea of fascism. Can you just explain to me what's happening? And I care almost less about the players as the debate and kind of where it started. I do care about the players, the people weighing in. I guess it's all pretty fascinating. You were talking about it before. I saw you tweeting about it. People can follow there. But it's really interesting. What's going on? What's the debate?
So there's a professor named Corey Robin, I think at Brooklyn College, who's, middle to the left of middle for sure, maybe just a little right of really left. And he is sort of an anti-Trumper. And anti-Trumper.
He's against people who are against Trump, or
he thinks that people overreact to Trump. Now, he doesn't like Trump, to be super clear. He doesn't want Trump to win. He is against Trump, etc.
He's a political scientist. He's written books.
Right.
Yeah.
And
what is that goddamn alert that keeps going off on your computer, you son of a bitch?
Sorry, man.
That's right.
Sorry, but
yeah, I just want to let people know that I hear it, and I apologize for Bill.
So Corey Robin put this tweet up where it basically said, if you're not stockpiling guns or you're not planning on fleeing the country anytime soon, then you need to stop freaking out about the idea that fascism is coming to America. Now, that is just fucking stupid, right? Like there's a lot of built-in sort of middle-class attitude in that. Like, as if you have the choice of leaving the country or spending a lot of money on guns, right? That's absurd, and that's not, it's the equivalent, frankly, of saying, why didn't the Jews fight Hitler? Right? It really is. Yeah. And that's a fucking awful thing to say. But also it doesn't really address the fact that fascisms don't lose domestically, typically, unless they're outvoted. And when they get outvoted, they lose all the time.
Fascists.
Yes, fascist parties in Europe, everywhere else. When people just hit the voting booth and really vote, they lose the voting booth. Fascisms almost never, in fact, don't militarily take over a society. They typically win at the ballot box. And when they lose at the ballot box. So framing it as if you're not serious if you aren't planning to shoot somebody or planning to move to Canada is, this is a professor at a university. You would imagine that he would know fucking better.
Those are ridiculous choices and options.
Right. And
they're not realistic.
And he's been very, and there's a lot of sort of like, I'm a professor, you ought to know better. I know better than you kind of stuff going on. A lot of insider, outsider stuff. There's a guy named John Gans. Brian Beutler also commented on this.
Yeah, I saw Brian.
Brian and I have, given each other little hearts about our
yeah, Brian. He's your neighborhood friend. Right? Yes. Yeah, he's one of the most brilliant. If he and David Roberts of Volts are on the same page, and if you're on that page with him, I'm probably not going to make it.
Yeah, Beutler's great and a nice guy, by the way.
Yeah, he's been on a bunch of times as a result of, I think, your recommendation. I've known him for a long time, but go ahead. Yeah, he's doing a great new thing.
So where this gets at, and was privately my point to Brian, is that there's a bit of like people on the left who are mad that people a little bit to their right are ringing alarm bells about Trump. They're doing what socialists and communists did in Europe over Hitler. It was called social fascism. And anyone to their right was the enemy. And so they wouldn't support moderate socialist parties to beat fascists. And the famously, what the head of the German Communist Party said was, nach Hitler kommen wir, meaning after Hitler, our turn. Because these idiots thought if we let the Nazis win, people are going to recoil in such dismay that we'll win the next election, and that'll be that. Of course, in any of these countries, and including in the United States, if Trump wins, the next time we have a fair election is going to be very, very far in the future. And so it's this tendency to kind of hate the people who are just to your right or left more than you hate the radical all the way on the other side. And that is what we're seeing in the American left. It's that people on the left they're more worried about there being sort of a small L liberal America than they are that the real extremist right wing could win. And that's super dangerous. And it's a thing that's going on right now in our politics that I think if Biden loses, that will be a major reason why. It'll be the Ralph Nader effect, only instead of getting George Bush, you get the Mango Mussolini.
Well, it's a really interesting plot to follow, that debate, and people should go check it out on Twitter.
Yeah, if you want to watch and get angry, it's his name. The main guy's name is Corey Robin.
Yeah, I just followed him for you on Twitter. I just give him another follow.
And he is very obstreperous, and he's very full of his own professorness. And
I'll get him on with you. You want to come on with him? If I can.
Sure. Right. Sure. He would hate me completely because I'm, I would be.
That doesn't matter. A lot of people hate you.
That's true. Well, once I didn't go to Vegas, that was it.
People were pissed.
My clout with a K just went right into
it. We had such a good time. I really wish you were there. You'd have been like a celebrity. You've been cornered the whole time. People would have all wanted to talk to you, and thank you for joining us here. And then a couple of people have been like, where's that arrogant prick? I want to tell him right to his goddamn face.
I would love it. See, those are the people I actually want to meet, weirdly enough.
No one said that, but that I can think of. People have said it before. I've said it, but no one actually said that for sure. People, there's all kinds of people different people that folks wish were there and wanted to meet. You're certainly one of them because you've straddled all sides of this community. So we always love when you're at the Hangouts. Hopefully, are you going to stop by tonight?
I am not going to be doing any straddling tonight. I have been taking clients out to dinner, and
of course you are.
We'll probably be in no fit shape to be
the old clients out to dinner. I'm sure you're probably meeting with Hamas leadership.
Yep. If anybody's in Bar Charlie tonight, just stay out of our way. It's going to be stupid.
There it is. He's really going to be there. All right, bud. I'll let you go get ready. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you. Have a good one.
Well, there you go. What did I tell you? Another great conversation with Bill Boyle. Love talking to him. Please let him know that you enjoyed that conversation. Go on over to Twitter, where he's still very active, and let him know at Bill B in DC. And that's it. That's all I've got for you today. I think I'll be bringing you more tomorrow, and obviously get back on Monday with the regular format. Sorry I didn't get to the news today on this Friday. Going to get a lot done this weekend, though, so can't do it without your support. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. Write a review on Spotify or iTunes, and buy this song by John Carroll and johncarroll.org right now. Thank you. Love you. Bye, bumblebees.
When you can't see the forest for the burning trees, you got to stand up. Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you got to stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. Let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear and all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up. Stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up. They had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up. We got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up. You got to show up. Ain't no no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside. And listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up. Stand up. Got to stand up. Ooh, come on, just stand up. Everybody got to stand up in the darkest hour. Stand up. People got the power. Stand up. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Stand